In this video, I show you how I fly the Onager Star Destroyer. Also, I apologize for the dogs barking in the background because the neighbor's dogs are going ballistic and I have no control over that, unfortunately. The Onager class Star Destroyer comes in two variants. We have the test bed and the Star Destroyer variants. So let's have a look at the test bed. We have 10 hull black dice for flak, 3 command, 1 squadron and 3 engineering. Defense tokens, we have 1 brace, 1 redirect and a salvo. And looking at our maneuver chart there, we have up to speed 3 with a 1 click at 1, 1 click at 1 and 2 for speed 2, and 1 click at speed 1, speed 2, and none at speed 3 for speed 3. Looking at the dice on the arcs here, we have out the front, we have 5 shields. We've got 1 red, 2 blues, and a black. On the side, we have 2 reds and a blue for 2 shields. And out the rear, we have, what do we have here? 1 red, a blue, and 1 shield. We also have our experimental arc, which makes this ship special. We have 4 red and 3 black for the experimental arc. Looking at our upgrade slots, we have an officer, 2 weapons teams, or the gunnery team slots, and we have 1 support and a super weapons slot, clocking in at a total of 96 points. Alright, let's have a look at the Onager class Star Destroyer variant. Everything is exactly the same except for the 80 squadron dice, which is a blue-black. We also have 2 squadron. Everything else is the same. We're looking at the front arc. Front arc has an extra red dice, so for a total of 2 reds, 2 blues, and a black. Out the sides, an extra red, and it looks like they swap a blue for a black dice. So what we have there is 3 reds and a black. Out the rear, we have 2 reds and a blue. So this variant in general throws more dice than the test bed, but let's have a look at the experimental arc. We have 3 reds, 2 blues, and 2 blacks. So exactly the same number of dice, but more consistent colors, I believe. Okay, looking at our upgrade slots, exactly the same, except the major difference here, instead of the support slot, we have a turbo laser slot, clocking in at a total of 110 points. Okay, let's have a look at the 2 super weapons unique to the Onager class Star Destroyer, because let's be real, you're not taking this ship without stapling one of these 2 super weapons to the card. Alright, so we have the super composite beam turbo lasers. Modification gives you ignition medium, which we'll touch on a bit later, and the critical effect is ignition red. The defender suffers 1 damage. This occurs once for each red or blue critical icon in the pool for 7 points. Moving across is the orbital bombardment particle cannons. Modification giving you ignition long, and the critical effect is ignition red. Each other ship at distance 1 of the defender suffers 2 damage, and each squadron at distance 1 of the defender suffers 1 damage for a laughable 5 points. Laughable, I say, because most people would simply just pay the 5 points just to get the additional range at ignition long. So you're going to get long plus long, we'll touch on that a bit later, and not really care about the critical effect. The critical effect is nice, but most fleet admirals, once they see that, they're probably going to be working their way around it. This particular upgrade would most likely be used with the test bed, and the only time I can see that the other super weapon would be used would probably be with the Star Destroyer, just so you can get the 2 blues into the the experimental arc. That gives you extra chances of scoring criticals, but in saying that, your trade-off here is you're not going to have as much dice to throw at long, plus long, so extreme range, and because your ignition range is going to be medium, which once again I keep mentioning this, we'll touch on in the next segment. Okay, so for this ignition demonstration, I've set up the Onager at distance 3 from my edge, and I've also marked out the deployment zones for both players, so that way we can see what's going on here. So after the ship moves, natively, the Onager Star Destroyer has ignition close. So that's designated by the number 1 token there. If you take the super heavy composite beam laser, then you get ignition medium. So it gives you the option of putting the token up to medium or within close. All right, now if you take the beam, not the beam cannon, the particle cannon, which gives you ignition long, you can place your ignition token at the token number 3 right here. Now, if you do take that one, it means you only have the option of within close or putting the token within long, not anywhere in medium. So just keep that in mind. Now, this is where it all starts to matter. Now, normally, you place the token after moving, but I just wanted to make this point here. If you do this, if you measure from long here, if you somehow find a way to place that token before you move, now when you measure range from that token to gather your dice pool, you can now technically, at extreme range, shoot at anything in your opponent's deployment zone straight off the bat turn 1. If you can find a way to do it, and there is a way to do it. So yeah, pretty crazy stupid. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is deployments. Now keep in mind, the following tips are very situational because it depends heavily on the kind of fleet composition that you have, giving you the number of deployments and also who you're facing. If they have a lot more deployments than you have, or if they have less, and obviously the objective you're playing. Tip number 1, where possible, deploy last. Now, the reason you want to deploy last, because this ship will most likely be your most important vessel, and you want to place it in such a way that you can keep firing at the enemy straight off the bat, turn 1 or turn 2, and keep doing so in the most effective way possible. And to do that, you need as much information as possible from your opponent on where they are, so you can position your ship accordingly. Tip number 2, deploy in the corner when in doubt. If you don't have enough information because you're out activated, just simply plop yourself in the corner along with all the other ships. Yes, you're going to be telegraphing where you're going to be, but at least this way you know where they're coming from and you know your Onager will have a shot. Also, deploy at speed 1. Okay, moving on from deployment tips, let's have a look at a few general tips. So, firstly, on turn 1, obviously, commsnet a token over, a nav token, sorry, from a Gazani or something, bank that token, and then your command stack should look very similar to this. So you want to be con-firing all the way from turns 1, 2, and 3, and on turn 1, after you reveal that command, you want turn 4 to be a nav. And then from then on, nav, 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 okay? I'll show you why in a minute. Now obviously the concentrate fire command is to get the most out of your experimental arc as much as possible when you're doing the ignition attack. Alright, on to the next tip, which is shoot and scoot. Now generally what happens is around turn 3 or 4, the opponent, who let's hope doesn't have an Onager themselves, would start to close in on you and start hitting your Onager. Now the Onager has 10 hull and 6 shields at the front, so it's pretty tanky, but the key here is that it has speed 3. So on turns 4, assuming you've been going at speed 1 this whole time and leaving yourself enough of an escape vector, you want to GTFO out of there. So you reveal your nav, right, either from your command stack, or if you're being cheeky to have a Thrawn dial or something like that, go from speed 1 to speed 3 because you banked that command token in the beginning. Right, get that extra click at 3 or wherever you need to, and just get the hell out of there. You've had a straight 4 turns of shooting, right? You don't need anything else. Most ships don't even get 4 turns of shooting, and the key here is to get the hell out of there. Let your other ships finish off with the target, whatever it may be. It could be a Starhawk, could be an MC-80, could be another ISD, and happy days from there. Even luckier still, if you manage to destroy this target before you shoot and scoot, all the better. But the idea here is turn 4 is the critical moment where either the big target comes in to close in on you and you need to get out of there, or if there are multiple small targets, they're going to be swarming you and swamping you down, so you need to get out of there. Jump the lines, get out of there. If you've flown ISDs a lot, this happens to be a very common maneuver, very frustrating for the opponent, but very good for you. I forgot to mention the unique title cards for this particular ship. So we have Sunder, Raquel, and Cataclysm. I'm not going to talk about the first two because I'm going to be real, I've never used them. They do sound cool, but really I think everyone wants to use Cataclysm. So Cataclysm is the key to getting your attack on turn 1 straight off the bat. So Cataclysm is after the start of the ship phase, you may spend 1 concentrate fire token to place your targeting token within your special firing arc within the range specified by one of your ignition keywords. So obviously you pair this up with your orbital bombardment particle cannons, so you get ignition long, right? You combo also this with Hondo Anaka, so you can discard him and get your concentrate fire token onto the Onager, and then straight off the bat turn 1 you spend your concentrate fire token, place your targeting token down, measure for at long plus long, and fire when ready. Now the other thing I want to quickly talk about is targeting a selection. Now the thing with the Onager is you're going to get 1 to 4 turns of a good firing strategy happening, but the problem is you need to focus that down on a particular target. So if you're going to attack a large ship, you need to focus on it and not attack anything else, and focus on aiming that arc there. So it's a conscious decision you have to make at the beginning of the game, especially during deployment. Also, because you have to shoot and scoot, you want to make sure that that target is firing for effect, right? You want to make sure you're firing on target and that you're getting as much damage pushed through as possible so other ships can finish it off. So the problem here is now you have to choose between going after their main flagship, which is some biggie like a Starhawk, or do you go for the small ships such as like CR-90s, Hammerheads, Raiders, Flotillas, the sorts. Right, you can probably pop 1 or 2 of them before the end of turn 4, but then you scoot away. So it comes down to your thinking here, whether you feel confident enough that 1 to 4 turns of firing on a large target can finish it off for the big money, because that's what we want at the end of the day, all the points, right? If you can't attack, if you can't finish it off in 1 to 4 turns, can your other ships finish off the job? Now, if they can't, maybe we have to start looking at destroying the smaller targets and scooting away, making sure we live to fight another day, but also preserving the rest of our fleet so we maintain a really high points advantage across our opponent so we can score more tournament points. So that's all I have for the Onager class Star Destroyer for this particular Captain's Clinic. Now, I'm going to straight up say, I think this ship really broke the game. I really believe being able to attack a ship without reprisal at extreme range, so the possibility of long plus long, which reaches the deployment zone of the opponent, is a bit ridiculous. So there are ways around it. You know, once you get used to it, there are ways to defeat it. You know, you can use your dodge token, for example, and get rid of 2 dice, but you know, if you roll an accuracy, they're not really going to be doing that, are they? Look, I think if you're going to be using this ship, please don't use it against a new opponent. I think this ship has the potential to cause a lot of salt to the untrained player or the unexperienced player. If you're going to play a new player, just don't use this ship. If you're playing a veteran, by all means. If you're going to a tournament, by all means. But yeah, look, I don't think this ship is particularly fun to be on the receiving end. It's definitely fun to be on the firing end, I'll tell you that. Yeah, but it endorses that typical sniper mentality in a spaceship game. So there's that. Anyways, that's all I've got. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If I missed something or you'd like me to cover something next time, please put a comment below. Otherwise, remember to subscribe, like this video, join our Discord, and have a nice day. Veteran Captain Ken, signing out.